Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Travel and Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And we're always glad to get updates and information about what we need to do to maintain safety for ourselves and the people around us. We get that from some of our local officials. As welcome back to the program, Captain Brennan Matherne, Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office Public Information Officer. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Keith. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So, man, I think we did fairly well getting through this very cold and frigid Christmas, but it's always important for us to kind of think about what people need to do to keep their safety for New Year's. Let's talk a little bit about that, Brendan, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, certainly when you look at New Year's Eve, two of the biggest issues we have to deal with, of course, is fireworks and impaired driving. Historically, that's been the two that we deal with most of all. Around Christmas time, you certainly have depression and some calls, possible suicides kick in, domestic issues. But when it comes to New Year's and this time of year, this week, we're typically looking at a lot of calls for fireworks, potential fire hazards that have occurred. Obviously, the fire department responds to those as well. Of course, we are out looking for impaired driving. The last thing that we want, although we have seen in the Troop C area and certainly in Lafourche, we have seen those fatalities hit in the last few days, including Christmas Eve. We certainly don't want to see any more fatalities on our roadways. So impaired driving is certainly something that our deputies will be looking out for. We'll have additional deputies on the road strictly looking for impaired drivers. So that is definitely something that we want people to be aware of. If you plan to drink, if you're going to a party or you're going out to eat, whatever the case may be, if you plan to have a drink, we advise everyone to designate a driver. Make sure that you have a way to get home before you leave the house.
Yeah, just one of those things, we spend some time talking with Troop C and all of law enforcement in our area, and you guys do such a great job of it, educating the public about what to do and what not to do. It's important that you make a plan and just make that decision before you leave the house. If you're going to decide to have a drink, you need a designated driver. It's that simple.
That's the whole key. And I think as you grow up, I know, as a teenager and certainly even into your early 20s, when you have less responsibility, making a plan to get back home is not the biggest priority. And so you may not have that before you get home. You're just thinking about going out with friends and you figure I'll get a ride somehow, some way. But as you get older, you have more responsibilities. And certainly even at those young ages, we would strongly encourage everyone to have a plan. Don't just wing it when it comes to trying to get home. If you are winging it, then definitely don't drink, because you don't know when the opportunity may arise that you have to be the one that gets everyone home. If you're with a group of friends and one person's driving and that person ends up drinking, someone's got to be the bigger person to step up and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to take one for the team and not have a drink so that I can get us all home safely tonight. It's all about responsibility. But it's not just personal responsibility. Not only are you endangering yourself and in that situation, your friends, but you're endangering other people on the roadways. It would be bad enough if your family had to suffer a loss during the holidays, but imagine you having to live with, for the rest of your life, the fact that you killed someone else in a crash because you were driving impaired.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I will tell you, fortunately, my son's birthday this week, and we went and had a birthday dinner. We made a plan beforehand. He had one of two options: drive to the restaurant and don't drink, or Uber to the restaurant, have as many drinks as you'd like, and I'll bring you home. That's just one of those things, made a plan. So we listened to that advice. Now, speaking of more advice, let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the restrictions for fireworks over in Lafourche Parish that people need to be aware of, and some of the safety measures.
Yeah, so in the city of Thibodaux and the town of Golden Meadow, inside the corporation limits, fireworks are not allowed at all unless you have some kind of special permit given to you by the city or the town. The only place they are allowed in the town of Golden Meadow is at Oak Ridge Park. Now, with that being said, for the rest of Lafourche Parish, all the unincorporated areas, as well as the town of Lockport. So if you don't live in the city of Thibodaux and you don't live in the town of Golden Meadow, essentially all the other areas of Lafourche Parish, fireworks are illegal, and you can legally buy, sell, and discharge them between certain times, which you can find those time limits and those time frames on our website and on social media. But ultimately, what I can tell you, and what I'm sure most people are concerned with, is New Year's Eve. They are legal to go all the way up until 2 a.m. on January 1st. So on New Year's Eve, even if you start early, obviously you can continue popping fireworks until 2 a.m. We don't necessarily advise that or encourage that because that is just a parish ordinance that we have to enforce. And obviously people have small children, pets that would always be impacted by fireworks going off, especially that late or that early in the morning. So we encourage people to act safely. Make sure you're not relighting something that you've already lit. If it doesn't go off properly, back away from it, douse it with water and get away. And speaking of water, make sure you have that bucket of water nearby in case anything goes wrong.
Yeah, and don't just assume that it's going to go out. We had a family emergency, a large fire that ruined one of the best dwellings that the family had because they put it into a garbage container and they assumed that it wouldn't reignite. Make sure you use that water and everything is out and completely out without any smoking or at all. Make sure that it's well out. But Brennan, we always appreciate your time. So Captain, thank you for what you do, keeping the community of Lafourche safe, and certainly giving us those updates about what is or is not acceptable for this New Year's Eve in this time frame. We always appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. We wish everyone a happy new year and look forward to seeing everybody in 2023.
A healthy New Year's Eve with no fatalities and no accidents is what we're wishing for.
Yes.
Very good.
Amen.
All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. All right. Very good. And again, that's Captain Brennan Matherne, Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office, the Public Information Officer, sharing with us the information that we need to know. Again, City of Thibodaux, City of Golden Meadow, inside the city limits, no fireworks everywhere else in the parish you can. All right, we're going to take a short break. Don't go anywhere. A lot more Bayou time when we continue.